Overtime! All right, it's been a couple of months since I've released a full-length Frogger episode. I've been doing some work in the background off camera, and I have released a couple of shorts in the meantime, kind of detailing what I've done. I did go ahead and finish removing all of the original wood grain vinyl or contact paper or whatever it was off of the sides, and I did all of the Bondo and sanding work, especially repairing, rebuilding that front corner that had been blown out there. I pulled all of the T-molding off. I also completely stripped off the old control panel. Obviously, there's a ton of extra buttonholes and whatever that we're gonna have to fill, and there's actually a new technique that I wanna use for that. Yeah, we're ready to keep working here. And the next thing I wanna do is pull this monitor out. There's a couple things I think I'm going to actually have to cut. Let me bring you in here. We'll take a closer look at what's going on. I think there's a couple things that I'm going to have to cut, unfortunately, to get this monitor out of here. The power is hardwired, and I think the DAG wire is also hardwired. Hopefully we can get a good view at what's going on in here. So this is a 4600. This is actually the first time I'll ever have worked on a 4600. And it's a little bit different than other monitors. This is an earlier Wells Gardner. So I just removed the video signal cables from one of the daughter cards here. And yeah, these two vertical, if you'll see them in a second if you can't already, these two vertical daughter cards on the main chassis PCB are a dead giveaway that monitor is a 4600. I've got all these alligator clips sort of acting as the ground. First thing I'm gonna have to cut is this power connector, which is hardwired in. So let me grab my side cutters, or flush cutters, whatever you want to call them. So there, we'll have to repair that. We'll put on a Molex connector to make it easy. And this monitor is working. It's just never had a cap kit, and I want to rebuild it. It's funny, I now have quite a few 4600 monitors in various games, and all of them that I've tested are working. None of them have been rebuilt, but I want to do that. And this thing is kind of dirty too. So, obviously Frogger, Konami developed game, but a Sega Gremlin cabinet. Sega had the license from Konami to, I'm just actually gonna pull, yeah, we'll leave that on for now. Sega had the license from Konami to manufacture and distribute Frogger in the US, and they used Gremlin in San Diego that manufactured the cabinets. I think Gremlin was eventually acquired by Sega as a subsidiary, and there's lots of weird stuff in Gremlin cabinets. The way this monitor is mounted, there's this huge giant wooden frame that it's mounted onto, and let me pan up a little bit. We've got screws up here, so the monitor is bolted to this giant wooden sort of slide thing. We've got screws up here at the front and here, if you can see them. And then there's also brackets here and here. And hopefully I can remember how to do this. I think I need to remove these screws and then also the brackets up there. This cabinet is really kind of similar to my Carnival, but I never removed, that's got a G07, and I just removed the chassis from that one. I can't remember. Did I even rebuild that monitor? I might not have. I did pull the monitor out of the Pango. That was also a G07, and unfortunately, that was a monitor that I necked and caught it on camera when I did that. Oh man. But let me get these screws removed, and then hopefully that'll let us pull this monitor out of the cabinet. All right, I've got those screws removed, 4 on the bottom, 2 on each side, 4 on the top, 2 on each side on these brackets, and I believe the monitor should come right out. Famous last words, right? So this is gonna be kind of awkward. It's so heavy with this bracket, and I gotta be careful not to neck the monitor, but essentially it has to slide up and out. Maybe we should pull this out of the way just because this is not going to help us in any way, shape, or form. And remember, this is the I don't know what the history of this this game was. It has the logo of the IRS on this tape, and it says grand jury material to be opened only by Internal Revenue Service. So I don't know if this thing was seized as evidence in a trial or something, you know, IRS, you know, failure to pay taxes or something like that. Yeah, you do. That is one government agency you do not want to mess with. Again, I got this Frogger. It had been converted to a, you'll see in a second, a Romstar game, SN, I think originally actually an SNK game called Caliber 50, Cal 50. And I sold all that stuff to Steve Lady, Catcher 311. He does Mosaic Arcade on YouTube. Where am I going to stick this for now? So we're turning it back. We're not just restoring this, we're converting it back to deconverting it back to a Frogger. So I kind of want to grab it like this and be careful so that my belly doesn't neck the tube, but here goes. This should just slide right out. All right, that wasn't so bad. Oh, now I'm hung up. What am I hung up on? Oh, I see. Can I lift it? Yeah, okay. Okay, I see what's going on. So that wooden block, that wooden lip on the bottom of the wooden frame was getting hung up on these brackets right there, but we're good. And this is good because we're going to need to access this to clean all this out, remove the sort of outer bezel, and I might have to replace this piece of wood that the control panel mounts onto. So let's come over here and take a look at what's going on with this monitor. Okay. All right. So vertical K4600, Wells Gardner K4600, 19-inch in a vertical frame. So vertical oriented monitor in a vertical frame with this wooden, I don't get it. This whole, just the way Gremlin does stuff. You know, these cabinets are made of particle board, and this is made of actually pretty nice plywood. It's not even plywood. It's like 3 pieces of hardwood sheets. I don't get it at all. All right, this power, you know, warning isolation transformer must be removed sticker is going to fly away. So let me just grab that. And yeah, this is kind of filthy. So there's some interesting things going on. Let me get you off the tripod so we can see. So, you know, first glance, this actually looks a little bit like a G07 with this sort of metal, I don't know, shielding behind the tube. Couple things stick out. We've got a remotely mounted flyback sort of over here, which is definitely unusual. And these things have a reputation for being really, really good. 4600 flybacks. So we'll discharge that in a minute. We've got our horizontal width coil sort of mounted on the frame down there, not on the chassis. You know, later monitors had the flyback and the horizontal width coil mounted on the chassis. We have a pretty standard neck board here, and this is the kind of the weird stuff. So this sort of mounting bracket holds these vertically mounted daughter cards in place. One of them has the video signal inputs. This one has, you know, a bunch of pots on it. So we have to pay special attention to these. These both have caps on them that need to be replaced. And typically, you know, there's issues with the headers, you know, getting cold solder joints and whatever. So we'll definitely be reflowing all of that stuff. But other than that, you know, should be pretty typical. I've got my arcade parts and repair cap kit over here. I've got the black level pot right there that often goes bad, so we'll replace that. And we've got an axial cap to replace the notoriously bad paper capacitor that's in here somewhere. So yeah, so let's see. Let's, I guess, start to pull this thing out of the frame, pull this chassis out of the frame. to recap it and whatever. So what I'll start with is, of course, discharging the monitor. And again, this is an important step. These tubes can hold a pretty significant charge, and if you're not careful, something can go wrong, and usually they'll self-discharge, or some of the older ones don't. But you can get a nasty shock from this, which you don't want to do. So I've got a little homemade discharging tool. Essentially what we're doing is we're shorting the anode, which is under that sort of suction cup looking thing. We're just going to short that to the frame. So got a big old screwdriver with a wire soldered to it. That's all covered with electrical tape because you don't want to touch that. And then at the other end of this wire we have an alligator clip. So I can just clip this onto the frame, metal part of the frame, and I'll come in here and slide the flat end of the screwdriver under the cap, and we'll just make contact. And there's no snap or anything. Sometimes there's a snap, but we'll get in here and also try to help pop this thing off. But sometimes that's easier said than done. All right, and when you do that, I kind of did a bad example there. You want to keep your other hand in your back pocket because you don't want to accidentally touch the frame and have that shock go through your arms, through your heart. That is potentially bad business. So I'm going to have to cut this, unless I can sort of get this weird zip tie. It's almost like the chain on a a basement light. Sometimes you can kind of force this thing back. There we go. So we can reuse that little zip tie thing. Let me put this in a safe spot so I don't lose it. Okay, so that's good. What else needs to be removed here? There's all these wires. I'm not entirely sure what goes where. We've got a DAG wire here that looks like it's soldered in place. So I'm going to cut this cleanly, and we'll put a quick connect on this right here. And we'll put it, like I said, we'll put a quick connect on that to help make it easy to attach and reattach. Sometimes there's like a header that they plug into with a connector onto the neck board. Sometimes they're soldered on directly, and I like making it easy so I don't have to break out the soldering iron to remove that. Let's very carefully pull the neck board off. I'm not wiggling, I'm just kind of gently sort of rocking it to help slide it off. We got all this caulking, silicone, whatever stuff. Maybe this neck board's been off once before, because sometimes you have to cut this silicone caulk, which is just meant to kind of hold the neck board onto the, or hold the socket of the neck board onto the neck of the tube while the thing's being transported. Okay, we have a screw there. Is that really the only thing holding this on? Like I said, I've never worked on one of these before. How does this come? The horizontal width coil, and then this. So, I mean, there's some things that I recognize. There's these yoke wires. This is all zip tied up. Let me actually spend a couple minutes with this myself and get this all disconnected without you having to agonize over me struggling with it. All right, well, that was really something else to take apart. Like I said, this is my first time ever working on a 4600, and this is specifically a Wells Gardner 4675, K4675, 4600. Never worked on one of these before, and the design is really so different from anything I'm used to. And yeah, this really threw me for a loop. Through trial and error, I was eventually able to get it completely disassembled. The two vertical daughter cards. There was another daughter card kind of tucked in here on this frame piece. That's a power board. So we have power, horizontal, vertical, XY. This is really, I think, like the deflection board, and the interface board that has the, where the video input, wires come in. So yeah, got it all taken apart. And I Uh, after the fact, I realized that I really should have watched some 4600 cap kit videos before attempting one of my own. Because like I said, this design is totally different. Taking it apart was totally different. And I did get it out entirely on my own, blind, right? Lots of struggle. And then I went back and I actually watched a video that John made like 10 years ago from his jump bug restoration, John's Arcade, where he did a cap kit on a 4600, and he kind of left it almost sort of floating in the frame. He didn't take the chassis completely out like I have and completely disassembled like I have, or at least mostly disassembled. But watching him do it really helped. Another thing that I got hung up on, and you'll be able to see it in a minute, you got to be really delicate with the horizontal width coils on these 4600s. I think I showed it to you. It's sort of mounted on the frame. And that thing is super fragile. There are no reproductions for it. I guess you're kind of hosed if it goes bad. It's got these little metal prongs that keep it mounted on this metal bracket that's built into the frame, and then there's just two wires soldered to it. And I actually attempted and was successful at removing the horizontal width coil from the frame, and so that was sort of floating with the chassis. And then I went a little bit, did a little bit of research, and everyone's like, "Don't do that! Don't touch that horizontal width coil. Desolder it." So I did it the way that John did. Desoldered it, so the wires are kind of just hanging out right here, and put it back into the frame. The other issue is, I guess the sort of core of that thing is actually made out of cardboard. So super fragile, easy to break, and I'm glad that I didn't like hose this thing down, because that cardboard could have gotten destroyed if I really washed it the way I normally do. I did wipe it down a little bit, but yeah, so we've got our power board, XY horizontal vertical deflection board, the interface board, we've got our main chassis PCB, we've got our neck board, we've got our transformer that also gets mounted to the frame, or the flyback transformer, excuse me, that gets mounted to the frame. There's this other frame piece where the power board gets mounted on, along with the voltage regulator, which I've removed. This I thought was at first was the yoke connector, although it's got 6 wires instead of 4. Turns out this is not the yoke connector. The yoke has just these 4 individual wire connectors that have to be individually unplugged, so that was different. There's no capacitors or no electrolytic capacitors on the neck board, so nothing to replace there. I did crimp on a new power connector on the power input wire, so that's good to go. I crimp on a quick connect for the DAG wire to make it easy to reattach it and disconnect it without having to solder it back and forth. And yeah, I also, through the magic of television, went ahead and completed the cap kit. So yeah, I went ahead and did the cap kit. All the caps have been replaced. I used the cap kit that Peter sells at arcadepartsandrepair.com. And I guess there's bunches of different versions of the 4600, and there's some notes in here about, not every version, every variation of every 4600 has every cap, and so to keep that in mind, I found 3 positions where my monitor, the caps were not populated. On the power board, C551 was not populated, and on the main chassis PCB, C607 and C632 were not populated, so I left those unpopulated. So I've got 3 extra caps in my cap kit right here. And even there's a note here that says C202 is not populated on all of the interface PCBs. So we did that. 2 more things I did, which are recommended, preventative maintenance that everyone talks about. There's a paper capacitor here, C621, that everyone replaces. Here's the original. It's an axial cap. I don't know what makes it a paper cap, but I did replace that. It's super high voltage and super low capacitance. It's a 0.1 microfarad, 1500 volt. So I don't know if that's part of the high voltage circuit or whatever. It got replaced with a 0.1 microfarad, 1600 volt cap that Peter sells. And the leads for this were thicker than the vias, the holes in the PCB. So I actually had to drill out ever so slightly the holes on the PCB. And I used a little carbide bit from a you know, $10 generic Dremel that I got from Harbor Freight. That worked just fine to just barely, you know, widen the hole to fit the legs through and solder that in place. So that's good. Another thing I did was replace VR201, which is on the video interface daughter board. I believe this controls the black level. This is the black level, you know, potentiometer or pot, and it looks like it's supposed to be mounted here on the front, but that would make it very difficult for you to access it to adjust it. And I have seen people, including Dell from Dell's Arcade and various places, talk about mounting that on the back side. But what's funny is the original that came on this was mounted on the back side. So maybe somebody had worked on this, you know, chassis before me. I don't know. Another thing I did was, I saw John do this. I sprayed just a tiny bit of deoxit into each of the, you know, connector housings or the pin housings for the 3 daughter board cards. And I think we're good to go. I got a new Silpad mica for the voltage regulator, and I think we're ready to disassemble this. So yeah, I did the cap kit completely off camera. I'm sorry about that. That was really super uneventful. It was the disassembly that was the hard part. Once everything was out, once everything was laid out on the workbench, the cap kit went super easy. Everything's very accessible, very visible. Most of the boards are printed on both sides, except for the video interface board is only printed on the top. You know, polarity was very easy to figure out. There's one cap in here that's a bipolar. Everything fit just fine. So yeah, that was really uneventful. One cap, and what is it here? C359. I kind of mounted just a little bit high because otherwise I would have been bumping into, I think that's a diode right there. It says X354. So that's just one thing to note. Some of these boards are a little bit weird. They have components mounted on the other side, and a lot of these resistors have these, I don't know, ceramic tubes on them to protect them or to prevent you know, heat transfer to other parts. So yeah, cap kit is complete. What I need to do now is reassemble this thing, and so maybe watching this will help you do your own cap kit, because the, you know, disassembly and reassembly, I'm imagining, are the hardest part. The last thing I remember taking off were these 2 plastic brackets that go on either end. I think this just sort of spaces it off of the frame to prevent the, you know, the solder side of the chassis from shorting to the frame. That was another thing too. I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to get this thing, how to get the chassis out of the frame. There was over here, it's actually a part of this. Is it? There's a metal piece somewhere where there's like a ground wire or something, and I thought that was what, you know, that little single screw. This goes like this. Yeah, there was some sort of ground connection somewhere, and now maybe I've kind of lost it. Anyway, not worried about that. Was it part of this? I don't remember. But that wasn't it. It turns out there's 4 hex screws underneath that screw up into, maybe they go into this. I don't know. They come up from underneath, so you have to tilt the frame of the monitor forward to access those screws. But anyway, you'll see all this sort of in reverse order as we put the whole thing back together. So we'll start with these plastic sort of brackets or whatever. I did reflow all of the headers, all of the connection housing headers here, and all the ones over here. These ones in particular, the header pins, they're all individually soldered, and so I had to be very careful. Every time I would solder them, they wanted to move up, you know, away from the surface of the board, so I had to be very careful not to get them all sort of, you know, wonky all over the place. So we'll get these plastic brackets in, and yeah, you know, the 4600 has a reputation for being kind of a beast to work on, but you know, like I said, I guess I've never until recently seen a video of anyone working on a 4600, and I really should have watched one in advance, but I watched John do it, and after the disassembly, it was pretty easy. So that goes on pretty well, and then this middle bracket comes over, and there's almost these Nintendo style push pins, plastic sort of push pins. Once we get everything lined up, we can make our connection. Like these I've seen in the Play Choice 10 uses these for mounting the interference cage, the PCB cage. So I think that's looking good there. I think the next thing I want to do is mount the power board, and this will come in like so. Let's get it past these wires. Okay, move that out of the way. It's just such a strange design. I'm glad that they then streamlined it later with the 4900, which is still my favorite monitor to work on, and then even more with the K7000, which is great too. So that goes there. And what should I do? Where does this go? Oh, this goes up here like this. I can see almost the dust pattern holding it there. Okay, we can start screwing things in place. Oh, this was the little bracket that went over here. And how does that? I think that just goes like that. Yeah, that was the thing that had the ground wire connection. We get all these nuts and bolts out so I know what I'm working with here. There's a bunch of different kinds of screws, and I'm hoping I'm remembering what goes where. Yeah, that seems right. Oops. Sorry if my head's in the way. This is just... All right, that's mounted there just fine. And I think another screw comes over here. You're not going to be able to see this, but this is the little mini bracket that has that ground point. Okay, let's see. Okay. And wasn't there something that held that on? Maybe just a couple of screws. Let's see. Oh, that was a different screw over here. Now I remember. Yeah, this had a little like, weird tiny hex socket driver. Let me do that real quick. Should have done a slightly better job documenting what screw goes where, because they're all little ones. So this is a unique screw, a tiny little hex bolt that holds this bracket in place. It's the same, I guess the same thread pattern as the other screws, but the other screws go in pairs of two, and this is only a single one. So let me get this on. Okay. This makes more sense now. All right. Which means I now have two screws to mount the power board, and we'll just make sure that's nice and seated, and it is. Screw it in place. Actually, instead of a power screwdriver, I'm going to be careful and use a teeny tiny manual screwdriver. It's tight quarters, and I don't want to over torque anything, even though this is a very underpowered screwdriver, which I like, so that because it helps to minimize damage. I don't want to risk it at all. Better safe than sorry, right? Okay, let's get this screw in here. There we go. There's one. And one more. This is even more tighter. Quarters over here. Hopefully I can get it started. The big old filter cap is in the way here. Okay, that's good. What next? Maybe our voltage regulator. This is the original 2SC1454. And I have no reason to believe that it's not working properly, so I'm just going to leave the original in. It's got this little socket thing. It's also a spacer. So this doesn't get soldered in, which is nice. One less thing to worry about. Okay, and then we have 2 screws. I'll use my hand screwdriver again. Okay. Wait a second, that's not right. Where did it? Oh, I think it uses this. These little screws, right? Yeah, that makes more sense. They gotta be longer to bite onto the mounting bracket, socket, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Yeah, and it's nice when you can replace a transistor. And it looks like we have something different with the hot over here, which is looking all gross, but again, it's working. It has like wires with the same sort of individual grabber points that the yoke connector does. But it's always nice to be able to replace a transistor without soldering. So we'll get that screwed on. And you know, when you're replacing bottle cap transistors, you got to be careful for polarity. You know, those legs are sort of pins are biased towards one end, and you got to make sure it's lined up properly. But that looks good, and we have our sill pad silicone mica in place. So that's good. And now, what the heck do these go to? Oh my goodness. I guess we're gonna have to figure that out. So, okay. What should I put in next? How about this? And this board's a little weird because there's should be these little plastic grabber feet that hold the connector housing on. They're broke off here, so it's a little bit wobbly, but we'll have to just make the best we can with that. All right, we'll line up the daughter board here and push it into place. That's good. And here's the next one. All right. This is the interface board. And a major issue that you have with these daughter cards is cold solder joints on the headers. So, you know, reflowing those is kind of a must whenever you're working on these. And I've done that, so that's great. And we'll just brush off some of this dust and grime. And this goes like this. There's like a pinch point, almost like a rocker. And it aligns these boards and holds them in place, and then we pinch it into place over here. All right, so that's good. I got all these leftover screws though. Let me think about this, make sure there isn't something major that I'm forgetting. All right, I think I figured out where these screws go, and I have to remove these daughter cards again, which I don't really want to do. But fortunately, they just pull right out. There's one and the other. Okay. Because these screws actually go back here on the, I guess we should have done this before. It would have made it easier to put the transistor in the voltage regulator. These go in over here, I believe, just to hold the socket in place. There we go. There we go. There's one, and there's one more down there. And yeah, this would have held the socket in place while I was installing the voltage regulator without me having to kind of squeeze it together. So I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I never like it when I disassemble something and then put it back together and have any parts or screws left over. Is always disconcerting. Okay, this goes back on like this. And whoops. Sorry, I'm new at this. It's my first time with a 4600. I'll be better next time, I promise. All right, that's good. And That's good. Put the bracket, plastic bracket, back on. There's little grooves that the boards slide into to kind of hold them where they need to be. Come on. There we go. Now what do I do? All right, I believe I have the monitor chassis completely reassembled, and we are good to go to put this thing back into the monitor frame. I have the exact number of screws that I'm expecting, 4 to hold the chassis onto the frame, 1 more to hold the flyback onto the frame. There's 1 at the bottom that's just loosened that it kind of slides into, and then 1 more at the top, and then 1 more screw to go through the grounding point, which sort of also gets attached right there. The other thing I need to do is solder the horizontal width coil wires back in place, which is going to be a little bit awkward, but we can start to position this thing in here. And there's just all these different pieces, and it's just so, it's so weird. And I got to be careful not to bump the horizontal width coil. Isn't this like, oh, I put that upside down? No. Okay, I actually had that little grounding bracket on the wrong way for a second, but I think we're back in business here, and I can line everything up with the wear pattern, and I'm going to use the grounding bracket to kind of hold this in place where I need it to be, because there's a nice screw mounting point for that. And just to remind myself that that's where I should ground it, I've got the remnants of an old grounding strap. That's the thing I was using the alligator clips to hold everything together before. Okay. In theory, we are attached to some degree. Right, I really kind of want to get the horizontal width coil mounted, and I'm assuming there's a polarity to this. So what I did, thinking I was smart, yep, and there it is. I drew a black line with a Sharpie in 3 different spots on the right side in the frame, on the corresponding right side of the width coil, and also on the wire that needs to go over there, kind of like this. That is so tricky to get to. Maybe I should back this thing out and solder it first. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to do is just solder these 2 wires back into place where they go on the horizontal width coil. And rather than see me struggle with this while my head's in the way, I'm gonna go do that off camera real quick. Very simple, just using my soldering iron. I think I might move the chassis, unattach it, move it out of the way to the limit of these wires, just to make it easier for myself. So I'll go do that, and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, got the horizontal width coil soldered back in place. I use my helping hands to help me accomplish that. And now we'll line up the chassis again on the frame. And we'll screw in our little grounding sort of strap bracket thing over here. Where is this? Okay. Okay, that's good. And what do I want to do next? We can get the flyback mounted again. That comes over like this. And it'll start dragging all these wires over. And there's a little slot that goes onto a bolt. There we go. And I've got another one for it over here. All right, get that started. And then see if we can fish this in very gently. You know, and how am I supposed to get the bottom one tight now that oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't want to take everything out because I would have to desolder the horizontal width coil. Let me see if I can fish something in there just to tighten down the bottom bolt on the flyback. Okay, the flyback is secure. I was able to kind of disconnect the attachment and reach in and tighten it down. So flyback's nice and secure. We can start plugging things in here. This is our DeGauss wire, or DeGauss. I feel like I'm always saying it wrong, but I can't be bothered to figure out what the right one is. And like normal, like any DeGauss circuit, there's two connectors, but there's 3 pins, but I think it's keyed so that it only goes onto these, or I hope. There's no other headers on the board, and I've been looking for what it could be. So, all right. DeGauss is in. What else can go on? The things that I thought were the yoke wires, which are not. These could have been connected the whole time, but you line these up and stick these back on. All right. That was a bear to get back on, just like it was a bear to get off in the first place. And then we have the actual yoke wires, which are these 4 wires right here with individual connectors. And I went and looked at my the picture that I took to remind myself how it went, and it goes red, yellow, green, blue. I even wrote it down. So red goes here, and yellow goes here. Okay, and then green goes there. The green looks all dirty, and blue goes there. All right, hopefully those are seated. This feels really fragile, putting it on like that. And what's left? Okay, let's see. We have our neck board, of course, which will go on like this into the socket. Okay. Yeah. And we have, I put the, like I said, quick connect on the DAG wire. So that's connected. I guess that just, that can hook right here. So sort of keep that out of the way. And what else? This wire, again, goes from the neck. I'm not entirely sure what this is for. This goes to these sort of back headers for the interface board. Give me some slack here, come on. Okay. There we go. If you know what these things are, you can tell me. Leave a comment down below. Anything else? I think those are all the connections except the anode cup. Before I do that, I'm going to tip this thing forward and actually screw it, screw the frame, or screw the chassis to the frame. Oh, very so gently. I do not want to drop this. I guess I could sort of put it on its face, but that would require me getting up and grabbing something. We're going to twist just a little bit like this. Okay. Here we go. First one is biting. This is crazy. All right, almost all the way. 3 more. I'll just screw these in real quick. Okay. I think we have a fully reassembled K4600, and I can put the anode cup back on. I don't think there was any attachment or anywhere anything that was holding it in any place. Oh, but this is a real tight one. Like the little rabbit ears are so tight in there. Hopefully I can, oh man, I think it went out like this. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, I think it was like that. Okay. Yep, that's secure. So let me go get my portable isolation transformer power supply and my TPG, and we can do a little test on this thing. Okay, I think we are all hooked up and ready for an initial power-up test. I have my compact portable isolation transformer power supply connected to the power input and plugged into the wall. I've got my test pattern generator, the TPG by CraftyMech, plugged into the video input headers. I've got my multimeter connected to the points for testing and adjusting the B+ voltage. And again, it's tight quarters here. The red, the positive lead from the multimeter has to go to the blue wire coming off of the voltage regulator, and the black lead goes to the chassis frame. I've also, I don't know if you can see, I've got two TV adjustment tools sort of pre-positioned for the black level and for the B+ adjustment, just because I wouldn't want to have to sort of fish them in there, just get them sort of set. So with that, we can turn our multimeter to DC volts. I believe we are looking for 127. We'll turn our TPG on and we'll hit the power in 3, 2, 1. We have HV, and our power looks pretty good. Maybe a tad high, 127.5. Maybe it'll change as the picture changes. So 127.7, falling a little bit. So not too far off the mark. And again, this was a working monitor before the cap kit, so we're hoping that it's working again here. And we'll come around for the moment of truth. Do we have an image on the screen? And sure enough, we do. Look at that. That doesn't look bad at all. Gonna make some adjustments here. I took you off the tripod. I'm not entirely sure why. And I did a little cleaning of this tube because it was filthy. Not unexpected given the conditions where I got it from, a college football frat house. But how's that? Maybe we can come in a little bit here and get a closer look. This doesn't look bad. Let me turn off the house lights. We can make some adjustments. It's nice and bright. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let me try I'm assuming this is the focus. Yeah. Yeah, this looks nice and crispy. Right there's good. And let's step through our patterns here. Ooh, the blue maybe is being overdriven. Look at that, we've got all of our colors. Yeah, the blue is off a little bit, and it looks better in person than it does on camera. It looks a little extra blue here. And I think I've got it dialed in, but on camera, in real life, let me turn off this light. Maybe that makes a difference because you're kind of looking into the light. That black looks real nice. Not on the camera, but in real life. We've got a little extra blue going on here. I don't think that's convergence. I think it's just the blue being overdriven. We'll step through here. And yeah, I think that's a blue adjustment. Yeah, there's some caliber 50 burn on this monitor, as you might expect. Yeah, look at that. That makes it very clear. And we got green up a little high. So I'll take some time, and the B+ is a little little high. I'll take some time sort of dialing this in. No need to see me futz with all the pots, but yeah, I would say this was a successful recap. We're at 127.7 right now. So one of the things I can do to sort of take my victory lap, as it were, is put my sticker on. Peter includes these in all his cap kits from arcadepartsrepair.com. Come on, will you focus, please? It says this chassis was recapped by Charlie G in October of 2024 with a kit from arcadepartsrepair.com. So we'll get this off the backing. There we go. And right there, I think would be good. Okay, so now I and anyone else will always know that it was me who recapped this thing. Yeah, the B plus is moving around only because we don't have a static image. Let's see, there, 127.4 with a grid pattern. Like I said, I'll adjust this a little bit, but all in all, this was a very successful cap kit. My first time ever with a K4600, and these are great monitors. Yeah, I need some adjustments. These are great monitors. Every 4600 I've ever gotten that I've tested has worked without any repairs done, but a little preventative maintenance here will go a long way. So yeah, very, very happy with that. Very, very happy. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I'm going to go to the falling block pattern. I like that one. It's almost like a game that I want to play. Anyhow, you know, the other thing that I wanted to do in this episode that we're not going to be able to get to, I wanted to fix the holes on the control panel. You know, there were some extra holes drilled into this because it was the caliber 50 rotary joystick game, twin, you know, two-player rotary joysticks. And there's a new method, like I mentioned, that Ty wants me to try to fill these holes. But guess what? Amazon let me down. I needed to buy some supplies from Amazon. They were supposed to be here 2 days ago. The delivery, there was an issue with it. I get stuff delivered to my house from Amazon almost every day. They missed this delivery. It's all screwed up. They're apologizing. I went ahead and ordered a replacement one. I bet those will arrive before the original shipment at this point. But you know, it's Friday night right now. I got to get this video edited and released tomorrow for early access by channel members and then out to the public on Sunday. So alas, we will not be repairing this control panel in this episode. We're gonna have to wait until the next one, and then we'll have to put the new wood grain vinyl on the side. We're probably also gonna paint all the black stuff on the inside. I might go ahead and just do that on my own. No need for you to see me just sort of masking some areas off and painting. I'll probably throw a coat of paint on the coin door, which really isn't bad, just a little bit of rust poking through. So I might disassemble everything and paint it. They did not, fortunately, they did not drill a hole for that credit button. That's actually in the hole where the lock goes, so that'll be an easy fix. And I do have the coin return catch for the left side. It's just missing some screws that I'll get from Ace Hardware. And then just basically, you know, throwing the new bezel in and fixing the control panel and putting the new CPO on and just wiring up like the last couple of things, and this thing will be done. So hopefully in one last episode, maybe a longer one, we'll be able to finish this Frogger and get this in the basement, which will be fantastic. And yeah, I don't know if you noticed in the background, that is the Ms. Pac-Man. I've been working on that a little bit lately. I got it primed and ready to go. We're going to be doing the stencils very soon. I've been showing a couple of different you know, shorts lately of the Ms. Pac-Man, but yeah, I've got all the paint and everything I need for to redo the stencils, and that has turned into so much work, so much more work than I was expecting. But yeah, that's why there's a white cabinet in the background there. But yeah, this Frogger will be done pretty soon, and the Ms. Pac-Man will be done pretty soon. What else? I think I'll also get to work on the Tetris cocktail, the Atari Tetris and that Dynamo HS6, I believe it is. Dynamo cocktail right there, because that's going to go to my new office at work. We just moved, and I got some even more stuff back. I haven't even talked about the pickup of this cabinet here, but yeah, that's what's sort of coming in Overtime Arcade in the coming weeks. You know, it's getting cold. I want to get all this painting done that I need to do, you know, because you don't want to paint when it gets under 50 degrees, and that is coming. It's under 50 degrees at night right now, but yeah. Just want to say thank you for all the support. You know, we're basically at our second birthday for this channel. We're approaching 5,500 subscribers, which is insane. So we got some milestones to celebrate coming up. Please, you know, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss the episodes that I release basically every Sunday. Sometimes they get delayed until Monday. Sometimes I'll throw a short in, you know, during the middle of the week, give you an update on what's going on. I do live streams every now and then. I've got a podcast called the Coin Gem Podcast. We got one coming up later this month, a monthly episode. Like this video, that really helps. It tells YouTube to recommend this video to people like you. You can share it. You know, if you know somebody that's into these games or into fixing these games, you know, did you ever play Frogger back in the day? Or do you maybe remember it from as being, you know, George Costanza's favorite game from Seinfeld? You know, leave me a comment down below about that. You know, share it with somebody who might enjoy this as well. And yeah, if you really want to support the channel, there's a couple ways to do that. We've got a merchandise shop. You can click the link down below. It should say store or something like that. It might say, there might be some links to some t-shirts, whatever. You know, we've got t-shirts, hoodies, hats, all kinds of good stuff. You can leave a super thanks. It's a one-time donation. There's like a $ button down below. You can leave a super thanks donation. It kind of highlights your comment and, you know, pumps you right to the top of the list. Or the best deal in town is becoming an Overtime Arcade channel member. Basically, you donate $1.99 a month, and you get you get to support your favorite arcade channel on YouTube, and you get access to some really cool perks. There's a monthly members-only live stream that's coming up in a week or so. We kind of hang out and play games and talk and chat and that sort of thing. You get early access to all new videos. So even though you might be watching this right when it came out, hopefully I didn't just kick over my paint can. You might be watching this when it came out on Sunday. Hopefully I got it out on Sunday. But channel members got to watch this a day early on Saturday. So that's a nice perk you get for being a channel member. And perhaps the most fun of all, you get access to our private members only Discord, which is super active. We got over 100 members. It's, you know, honestly, I'm spending much more time on that lately than on the Claw forums. We're trading deals. We're talking about what we're working on. We're asking people, you know, people are asking for help. We're helping them. It's great. It's very beginner friendly. If you're just getting into these games, just getting into fixing them, the Overtime Arcade Discord is really, really welcoming. A lot of fun. Really great community we're building there. But yeah, if you can help out the channel that way, that would be great. But you know, just keep watching these videos. Make sure you're subscribed. All that stuff is good enough for me. Anyway, I'll wrap it up here. As always, I've been Charlie. Thanks for watching Overtime Arcade, and we'll see you next time.
Overtime!